Welcome to the Texas Authors Institute TV show, produced by Beyond Bourgeois for the Texas Authors Institute of History, Incorporated, copyright 2024. If you would like to become a sponsor of our show and help us produce great content, please email us at texasauthors@outlook.com. If you would like to be on the show as a Texas author, please email us at texasauthors@outlook.com for more information. Music is Frolic of Words, created for Texas Authors Institute by Happy Fellows. Thank you for watching the Texas Authors Institute of History show with your hostess, Rox Burkey.
And thank you for joining Texas Authors TV. I'm Rox Burkey, co-author of the Enigma series, and I am delighted tonight to have a conversation with a wonderful fantasy author, at Raleigh Setzer. Thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about your stories, but I mean, you are an amazing fantasy author. You have a trilogy out right now. When did you decide you wanted to write fantasy?
So I've been writing since I was probably 14, 15 years old, and I took a writer's course in high school called One Year Adventure Novel. And that 1 year adventure novel, it was called Oyan. And when I took off and did that curriculum, it walked me through the process of writing a series and building world building and characters and all of that. I just fell in love with the idea of a fantasy world and I wanted to create fantasy. And so it guided you through like all of the different opportunities and possibilities to write, but fantasy just really captured my entire attention and personality there for a little while.
I can't blame you. Fantasy is so full of imagination and fun, and you get all sorts of different venues that you can extract during a fantasy. It's one of my favorite genres too. So you have gone down creating this trilogy, and in this trilogy you actually have you created something that is wildly fun with 3 kingdoms, 2 wars, 1 queen, and you're just having fun.
Yes.
So the very first book in this series is A Queen is Knighted.
Yes. I have it right here.
Perfect.
Yes.
That's a very interesting concept because
Mm-hmm.
typically queens are endowed with a crown as opposed to just being knighted. So why did you take that slant on fantasy? Because I think it's very interesting.
So with A Queen is Knighted, I really, at the time, I was really taken with the warrior queen image, and I really, really liked that image. And I think in putting it as the title and putting her on the cover with the sword and the crown at the same time, like it really captured her role as both the queen leading the kingdom, but also getting down and getting dirty and being willing to fight for her kingdom as the role of the knight as well.
So what's very interesting about the queen, it's a very strong woman protagonist. So you're painting her in a way that is, she's strong, she's mighty, but she's also willing to lead her country.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive for a queen, and she looks so very young. So how old is this queen when she decides to take on fighting the wars for her kingdom?
Well, so she's actually 17 in the book, and the main objective of the main role of the book is that she is not prepared to be a queen. She is the second born daughter, and so her older brother is the one who is preparing to take the crown. But in a tragedy, her castle is attacked and burned to the ground, and she's the only one left. And so at 17 years old, she's kind of just thrust into this story and she's thrust into this position and role as being the queen when she never even thought it was something that she was supposed to have to do.
So that's amazing. So she wasn't trained to be in this position.
Correct.
Here she is, she's owning this position. So
yes.
What attributes did you really focus on in creating and developing this character to help give her the strength to be
Mhm.
able to be this kind of leader?
I think in walking through her journey in the first book, especially, you see her character development a lot throughout the journey as being very reluctant and feeling a little bit lost, and she's has deals a lot of anxiety. And I really wanted to focus on a character that feels like she's not prepared and that anybody else could probably do what she's called to do better than her, but because of her position and because people really focus on her and she's kind of the last hope for the kingdom, because she has that image kind of cast onto her, she just decides to eventually embrace it. And so it's kind of her journey of learning to embrace something when she really believes that anybody could do it better than her.
And so that's the, I'm going to look at myself and go, no, I'm not good enough. No, I'm not this. No, I'm not that kind of attitude. So
Uh-huh.
really, how did you help frame her to be able to wear the mantle of a queen, which is very different from just being a knight? I mean, that's impressive.
Right, right. I think a lot of her inspiration comes from looking at her mom and her dad. Um, in things that happen in the book and everything, she doesn't always have the ability to go and talk to them and ask them for advice, obviously, because she's the last one standing. But she draws back on conversations that they had, and she remembers training with her brother, with the in the Knights training arenas and everything. And so she draws a lot on asking questions from people who are in leadership roles in without the book. And so she's really good about finding mentors and learning how to basically transition into that leadership role by asking questions. And she's very teachable.
Oh, neat. Okay, so that's very good. So when you're doing your world building here, who
Mhm.
is she? Who was she fighting against initially? Was it a country kind of grab, or what kind of wars were these?
So a lot of it, so with the Queen is Knighted, we have the tagline is three kingdoms, two wars, and one queen. And so initially she is trying to figure out who attacked her castle. So we don't know in the beginning like who actually attacked the castle. We don't know why they attacked the castle, because there is a long period of time where there's no wars. Like they're kind of on a peninsula that's split between three kingdoms, and so they've been at peace for like 100 years. And so she's trying to figure out who attacked her and why. And then there are a lot of like supernatural things that start happening. She sees some animals that are like haunting her through the forest, and she's trying to figure out what is going on. And so you kind of discover in A Queen is Knighted who started the attack. I don't want to say it because it's a spoiler.
Okay.
But you figure out who was initially behind the kingdom attack, and you figure out that there's a much bigger picture going on that's more of a supernatural feel as well.
So in this trilogy, she obviously evolves as a character, and
Yes.
she comes up against different challenges that she has to overcome. Where did
Mhm.
the inspiration for her as the queen come from?
That's a really good question. She was really just always kind of a character in my mind. I think in a lot of ways, I may have drawn a little bit on myself as far as like dealing with anxiety, and feeling like, especially like the role of not feeling ready for certain roles and kind of feeling like you have to be cast into a leadership role before you're ready. I think a lot of that I drew on myself, um, unintentionally in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
But when I went back and read it, I was like, yeah, that was me going through that at that time. But I think a lot of it, she was just kind of a character that I developed, and there was really no set inspiration other than she just lived in my head.
I love it. And so this is perfect. Perfect pause point for us to take a break. And then I want to come back with you Rayleigh, and I want to talk about some of the framework that you have done. So stick around.
Okay.
Each and every one of us has a mission in life. Mine is to help people laugh through the good times and the bad. My name is Charlotte Canyon, and I am an author, a speaker, and a host on Indie Beacon Radio. If you need me to speak at an event or autograph my book, you can contact me at charlotte@charlottecanyon.com. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
Gather round, we're making history in the heart of Texas, Tennessee. With books in hand, we're gonna break the mold. 300,000 stories yet to be told. Mark your books one by one. Join the fun, we just begun. Texas pride, the books will flow. Setting records high, let's watch it grow.
Texas Authors Institute of History is not only a nonprofit museum for Texas authors, TAIH is also a place where authors can learn about publishing and book marketing. Check out our new magazine, the Texas Authors Magazine, available for free at texasauthors.institute today.
Thank you for watching the Texas Authors Institute of History show with your hostess, Rox Burkey.
Welcome back to Texas Authors TV. I'm here tonight with Rayleigh Setzer. I'm so excited to talk about your fantasy because it really is fascinating. You have a queen who's very, very young, inexperienced, and yet it's kind of a coming of age. She's learning about herself. She's learning about how to rule something that she was never destined to do. So that's a very interesting world building perspective and character building perspective. So how hard did you find that to do?
It was actually very challenging. I went through 4 different rewrites. With the first book, I completely scrapped the first 3 drafts, and then it wasn't until my husband, who is actually the J in RJ Setzer, he really helped me bring out the outline and bring the full plot like into focus. And so that's why he got the initial in our name for the pen name for contributing to the outlining process. But it was very difficult because you have 3 different kingdoms that are 3 different cultures. And so you're not just building one kingdom, you're building 3, and then the entire outline of the world and trying to make it all work in a somewhat realistic sense. So it was very challenging, but I've loved every second of it.
It's fascinating. And the other thing is, so you have 3 kingdoms. Do they each have magical properties that differ, or does magic come into this fantasy? Or
Magic does come into the fantasy. You see it a lot more in book 2 than you do in book 1. Just because there's a lot of things like magic is something that's a bit of a fairy tale in the first book. Like most people don't believe in it. And then as you realize, it's kind of like it has been around for a lot longer than the characters realize. And so then they have to kind of discover it and they start trying to understand it. So each of the kingdoms, they do have their unique cultures, but for the most part, the 3 kingdoms do not have magical abilities until later on in the series.
okay, so when you put this together and you had 4 rewrites, as it were, how did beta readers come into your fold?
So with A Queen is Knighted, I had probably 10 beta readers because it was my first book that I put out and it was very new. And so I had about 10 different people that were readers from all different genres that came into. With the second book, it's a little bit harder because you couldn't just have just anybody read it, right? Because they have to read the first book. So I only had about 5 or 6 beta readers come in for the second book, and then I'm still drafting the third one. So we haven't had any beta readers out yet.
No, totally understand. And so these are not independent books. You really do need to start with book 1 in order to
Yes.
understand what's okay.
Yes.
So that's good to know. So everybody should start with A Queen is Knighted, clearly.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so how are your beta readers and your reviewers relating to the Queen?
That's a good question. I've had a lot of people tell me that they really relate to Lorraine's feeling like overwhelmed as with that responsibility, because I feel like a lot of fantasy characters, especially, expect women to just go in and carry all of this burden without ever crying, without ever, batting an eye or anything. And Lorraine is a little bit more relatable, at least to me. And I've heard it from several readers that it's relatable that she breaks down and cries occasionally, like because we would cry in that instance. And so I think that they feel a little bit like they can relate to her if they were in her shoes.
I think that's fascinating, and it makes her very realistic, and so that's a good thing. So as you go into book 2, which is A Prince is Lord, I
Mhm.
got to ask, just from the title alone, is this Lord for Lorraine, or is this Lord for power over the kingdoms, or what is this prince kind of handling? What's his
So, A Prince's Lord is about Lorraine's brother. So, the prince that went missing in the first book. And so he is kind of a free spirit. He never really wanted the kingdom responsibility to begin with. And
Okay.
so A Prince's Lord is more about his journey of self-discovery and what he wants to do, especially now that most of the kingdom recognizes Lorraine as the queen. He doesn't know if he should take that control from her or if he should find something else that he's going to do.
So do they have a good relationship as siblings then? It begs the question.
I love a good sibling dynamic. So, of course, there's going to be a lot of like bickering and, the sibling arguments that happen. But for the most part, they do care very deeply for each other as family, and they do usually have each other's backs. And I love exploring good sibling dynamics.
Oh, no, that's very exciting. It's also a very complicated avenue to go down as you are
Mhm.
conforming with your world building and also keeping her kind of as the main heroine of the story.
Mhm.
Does he tend to steal her thunder?
He's one of those characters that's kind of a flirt and kind of takes everything not so seriously. And so he likes to be in the spotlight a lot. And so he definitely tries to, especially since he's like the older brother. And so occasionally he thinks he knows better. And so a lot of their bickering does usually stem with him trying to butt in.
Okay, well, that's an older brother for you.
Right.
So when you crafted a prince and his character, did you draw upon things that you know about, or things that your husband Jay knows about?
Uh-huh. Yes. So, my husband and I, we both come from fairly large families. I have five younger siblings, and then he has four younger siblings.
Wow.
So, we both we blended a lot of our sibling dynamics into Lorraine and Zach's dynamic as siblings. And so I did not realize until after I finished A Prince's Lord that my brother is essentially like the inspiration um for Prince Zach, just because he had the long hair at the time. He's very free spirited, very funny. And I did not realize until I went back and reread it that I was like, I wrote my brother into this book. I was like,
Nice.
oops.
No, it's okay. You can do that. You're a sister. You can do that.
Right.
So what would you like readers at this point, with 2 books in your trilogy, to walk away with when they read A Queen and a Prince? What do you want to give them?
Um, so with A Queen is Knighted, I really want people to feel like they are more than capable, that they can accomplish more than they think they can, and that it's okay to feel overwhelmed. Um, and it's okay to seek help for, advice in a lot of ways. And for A Prince's Lord, I really focused on the message of spreading your wings and going against the flow. If you, a lot of people have certain expectations for you, but at the end of the day, it's like what you make that choice for your life and chasing and spreading your own wings. And so those are the two accompanying, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with book 3 yet.
No, that's really exciting. So I assume that they both will be a part of book 3, that they're
Yes.
family, the remaining family. And, older brothers tend to be very judgmental, just saying, because I have an older brother.
Yes.
So, this is almost a perfect point to take another break, Rayleigh, and kind of when we come back, I want to talk about where we can find you and where folks can come and shake your hand, because I know that you actually love meeting your fans and lots of readers.
I do.
We'll be right back. Stick around.
I am happy to announce that the third issue of the Texas Authors magazine is now available for free. Go to texasauthors.institute, select the magazine heading at the top, then scroll down to issue 3. You are always welcome to review the other issues from our inaugural year. While at our website, Texas Authors can sign up for our newsletter that keeps you informed of the latest news, tips, and tools to be a successful author. Go to texasauthors.institute for more.
Thank you for watching the Texas Authors Institute of History show with your hostess, Rox Burkey.
And welcome back to Texas Authors TV. I am so delighted. This time has just flown by, Rayleigh.
It really has.
Love talking about this trilogy, and I'm very excited. I put the Queen in my cart on Amazon, and I'm like ready to rock and roll. So I know that you're working on book 3. When do you expect book 3 to be finished? And no hard date. I know how it goes.
Right. We are in the middle of drafting right now, and so I draft in between my college courses. So I'm aiming for sometime late next year. Depends on how the college courses go, but for the most part, I'm aiming for next year.
Well, good luck on your college courses. What kind
Thank you.
of book events do you have planned in the rest of this year, 24, and into next year? Do you have some things planned where you're going to go meet and greet? And
I do. I have 2 events happening in October. One is an autumn festival. I'm going to be set up at the Canton, Texas Autumn Festival. And then I'm actually going to be at the Greenville Ren Fair as well, which is October 26th at the W. Walworth Harrison Library.
fantastic. It's a wonderful library.
Yes.
I've been there before.
Yes.
And I know that you have a website. So
Mhm.
we're going to spell out the website address so people can meet with you on the website.
So our website is rjsetzer, it's setser.com.
And does that have a calendar where you're going to be so people can come connect with you?
No, it doesn't. But now that you say that, I should definitely put that on there.
Sorry. If people
So
want
it
to
might
know-
have one by the time you look at it.
So can they email you and find out where you're going to be next in case they want to come and get your signature and chat with you and find out more about the Queen and the Prince?
Yes. So my email address is rjsetzerauthor@gmail.com. And the best way to keep up with me is on Instagram or Threads as well. I usually post all of where I'm going to be about a month um, before the event happens on Instagram, and that's RJ Setzer Author.
Excellent. So people who's following Instagram, get a hold of RJ Setzer and
Yes.
just make sure you're going to get her at her events. Greenville especially is a really, really nice event, and you're going to be with her
It
with
is.
your books. You're going to sign them.
Hmm.
And maybe, you know, you're going to find some deals. Both the books might be a deal, or at
Yes.
least get a kind of a ticket for book number 3 when it comes out. This is
Right.
definitely a trilogy that
Mhm.
you're dealing with at this point in time, right?
Yes, yes. This will be the last and final book that'll come out, and it'll be a complete and final trilogy.
Okay, so that's really good. So we're going to meet with you. People are going to see you. I got to
Mhm.
ask, what comes after this trilogy, really?
Well, I've got a few projects in mind. They're right now they're just kind of sitting with outlines. I do have about 2 or 3 different projects that I'm working on after the trilogy, and where you just like scribble all the outlines down. So as of right now, there's not a whole lot of clarity on which one's going to come next, because I really want to focus on book 3. But I do have some ideas for some projects coming up, and it'll probably still be fantasy.
Oh, awesome. I love fantasy. And so if you
Yes.
have a really short advice for upcoming writers, because you've got 2 books on and you're working on number 3,
Mhm.
what's your recommendation for up and coming authors?
Don't be afraid of a first draft. I think part of the reason I started writing A Queen is Knighted, and it between start date and finish date, it was about 10 years roughly. And then I redid it 3 different times. And so I think honestly, it was because I was afraid of a first draft. I thought it had to be perfect, and so I kept scrapping it, even though I never actually finished the full first draft. And so, don't be afraid of a first draft. It's going to be messy. You're probably going to hate it, but it's okay. You can edit it, and it'll be pretty later.
I love that. So Raleigh Setzer, delighted to meet you. I want
Yes.
everyone to take a look for A Queen is Knighted and A Prince is Lord, and you're available on Amazon. You're also available on some other platforms as well, right? Goodreads and Book Club.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Awesome. And your website is
Yes.
rjseltzer.com. And
Correct.
thank you so much. I appreciate meeting you. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome to the Texas Authors Institute TV show, produced by Beyond Bourgeois for the Texas Authors Institute of History, Incorporated, copyright 2024. If you would like to become a sponsor of our show and help us produce great content, please email us at texasauthors@outlook.com. If you would like to be on the show as a Texas author, please email us at texasauthors@outlook.com for more information. Music is Frolic of Words, created for Texas Authors Institute by Happy